walk and travel the byways and the sidewalks of this great nation. I implore each and every last one of them through your word, Heavenly Father, that we use those two words to emphasize the importance of human dignity and human pride. And we say all these in your Son's name. Amen.
All right, you may be seated. All right, good morning. It's not Mondays with Mickey yet, but it will be soon. All right, Madam Attorney, can we move into reasonable opportunity?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Yes, it would be appropriate to extend reasonable opportunity for all non-public hearing items.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and open reasonable opportunity. I have one speaker signed up, Norma Busto, you may approach. Norma Busto, you've got 2 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. You're registered to speak on item 1F1.
I'm going to leave it, but no, I didn't make it.
You can leave it, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Let me just. Carlos, want to come and hold this for me? Sorry. Make sure they're. Which one's first? Doesn't matter. Good morning. My name is Norma Busto. I live at 12717 Southwest 117th Street in Miami, and I am a constituent of Raquel Regalado, and I'm here because I have a problem in we have a problem in our neighborhood. And I'm here to appeal to you to please review the sidewalk issue that our neighbors has had to deal with for the last 2 years. It is not a safe place to walk, and I've got pictures because the pictures that the county took does no justice to what the reality is. I called Mayor Cavo about approximately 2 years ago, and I wasn't able to speak to her, but I spoke to somebody in her office. They gave me a telephone number. I called. They told me it would be about months. So we waited, and we waited, and we waited, called back, and then the second time I called the office, they told me that I was calling the wrong office. So then they told me I had to call Commissioner Regalado. I called. There was something going on in the office that everybody was working in the at home because there was the alarms going or something. I spoke to a very nice man named Carl, and he told me to call back. Meanwhile, I wrote a letter to Commissioner Regalado over this issue. Over here, you can see that we have people that cannot walk on the sidewalk. It is so dangerous. It's lopsided and it's high. Like I said, one of our neighbors ended up in the hospital. We have to walk on the street. I don't know about your neighborhood, but in that block, cars come and they're speeding, and I fear for our lives, you know. I can probably run out of the way, but these elderly people that are with walkers and stuff, they cannot. And I think we've been pretty patient in the waiting to see something. The reason I'm here also, and I know I'm over, is that we've been checking on the computer, and it said that the case was closed, and nothing has been done. And from the time that they put the asphalt, you can see that it has gotten worse.
Thank you, Norma.
So, thank you.
And if the department can meet with Norma offline and address her specific concerns, but we're going to be addressing the overall county issue just in a few minutes.
Okay, so then you'll let me know when.
They'll approach you now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Norma. All right, that's all I have signed up to speak. So public reasonable opportunity is now closed. Madam Attorney, I would like to set the agenda at this time.
Yes, Mr.
I was
Chair.
going to, with the setting of the agenda, defer item 1G1, but I see that the sponsor of the item is here, so I'm going to recognize her in just a minute. but my intent is to defer that item for this meeting. Motion to set the agenda? It's been moved by Commissioner Steinberg, seconded by the Vice Chair. All in favor of setting the agenda, signify by saying aye. Show the agenda set. Commissioner Higgins, I'm going to recognize you for 1G1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Interestingly, in the past 6 months, this is the second time we've had to put an item on the agenda.
Okay.
In,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Commissioner, I'm being told, because this is a public hearing,
okay,
so I have to open, well, here's the thing. I'm moving to defer this item, so do we really want to open up public hearing?
I would just be commenting on the deferral, and then you can decide if you prefer to proceed with the deferral or not.
So Commissioner Cabrera moves to defer, seconded by the Vice Chair. You're recognized on the deferral.
So this is now, colleagues, the second time in 6 months we've had to put an item such as this. The first came from Commissioner Cabrera, the second is coming from me in response to the broken appraisal system at the county. Right now, several years ago, this board, not our board, but previous boards, waived its right to weigh in on whether or not an appraisal needed to be waived to accelerate a project. And let me give you a couple of examples. So in the past, since January, there have been 3 projects, all of which were part of a procurement process that was awarded, that were delayed months because the administration forgot to get the appraisals. Now, let me give you a couple, 2 of which were affordable housing projects, one in my district, another one in Commissioner Regalato's district. These are things that went out as a competitive bid. They were awarded years ago. We negotiate it, we design it, we go through, we know what we're going to build, we're in permitting. We're about to go to financial close, obviously with Florida Housing Finance Corp, HUD, and others, and they're being delayed because the mayor has not, and her team has not gotten the appraisals done on time. So 2 of these projects were late. There is a third project that requires, again, another county project that has been done on county-owned land, right? This is land. We're not buying our own land. This is our land. We're not buying anybody else's land. This is our land. And because the appraisal was not done on time, and this particular project is TOD and it requires FTA approval, we're not even able to submit for approval to FTA. So I don't bring this item lightly. What we have is a situation where our projects, important affordable housing projects, are being slowed down. What I put in the item is a majority +1. I'm happy to move it to a supermajority, but I do think there are times when we are not getting the attention we need out of the administration, and projects are being slowed down. Now, does this mean I'm going to waive an appraisal on every project I do? No. As you all know, I'm working to negotiate a deal on the courthouse. We got a bid where the bidder said a particular land swap property was worth $20 million, $25 million. So that's what he was saying would come in. Well, guess what? With Alejandro's help, we are already working on the second appraisal, and that land's coming in at $10 million. So, which means we're off, I'm sorry, $15 million. We're off by $10 million. And so obviously we're going to do appraisals when we're needed. But let me give you an example, the one the mayor refused to waive and slowed our housing project on. This is one where we were about to go to financial close on an affordable building on our property. We're not buying anything, right? We're just building a parking garage on our property, because if I don't build a parking garage there, there's not enough parking capacity to build the affordable housing building next to it. What are we going to do with appraisal? Not build the affordable housing? But for whatever reason, the administration is so slow, and we have no authority to say to the mayor, Madam Mayor, let's get this stuff moving. We don't need an appraisal on this. And for whatever reason, the administration isn't doing it. They're not using common sense, and all of our projects have slowed down. I know one was slowed down in Commissioner Cabrera's. I know another project was slowed down because of this problem in Commissioner Gilbert's district. So that's why I bring it here. It's not because I think appraisals are bad. I think appraisals are good. But they're not happening, and they're being applied inappropriately on projects that don't need them. And then when we do need them, we do them. So I just like us to have the authority in special cases when affordable housing and other important county projects are being slowed down that we can waive them. And I'm happy to amend my item to go to a supermajority of the commission must concur, that no single commissioner can do it on its own. Right now I have majority plus one, but I'm happy to change that if you agree.
Thank you, Commissioner. And look, that explains some. I think probably amending it to a supermajority will give me more ease. I would still like to defer it at this time for several reasons. I think the issue is true to what the intent is right, and if there's a problem, it needs to be fixed. And this may be the fix. I'm wondering if there is a better fix, right? Like to the naked ear, waiving appraisals is alarming, right? When you explain,
I agree.
When you explain it, it makes a lot of sense. But I wonder if there's other ways that we can direct the mayor or have her do what she needs to do in a more expeditious manner, rather than bringing this. Now, listen, bringing this with a supermajority might be that matter. I would just like to kind of work through those kinks, and I know you're kind of nodding over there, Chief. We're technically on the deferral, but I let the commissioner speak a bit on it, so I'll let you speak if you need to. But ultimately, I would like for you all to bring me a resolution that you all agree on. I don't know how you all feel about this, but I imagine not the best about it. But I do have to agree with the commissioner. Like if ultimately the administration is delaying projects, there's an issue, and then this body will take action on that issue. I just don't like how it sounds to the naked ear. That's why I'm deferring it. But I happen to actually agree with the commissioner. So please work this out. You've got some time before I bring this back. And hopefully we have figured out a resolution. If not, this body will be taking further action.
And Mr. Chairman, when it comes back after the deferral, I will make sure the attorneys modify it with your permission to include the 2/3 majority, should it be needed. But that something's broken, it's desperately broken, and affordable housing is being delayed as well as important transit projects, and it's just got to stop.
Well, we obviously don't want to delay that for obvious reasons, right? I mean, we all get up on a microphone every few months and talk about what the crisis is in this county, so we don't want to continue delaying that. So again, please get together, work it out, because the commissioner does have a point. All right, guys, thank you. With that, all in favor of the deferral signify by saying aye.
Mr. Chair.
And that's to, I know what you're going to ask, and that's to no date certain until they can figure something out. All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Commissioner. All right, Madam Attorney, let's take item 7A first, if that's in order. Did I skip anything? No, right?
7A is the oral report by DTPW on street light contract.
All right, my favorite. I've been waiting for this for like a whole month. Director, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. For the record, Jose Alfredo Diaz, Interim Director of the Department of Transportation and Public Works. Per your directive, we've been looking at this contract, and we have issued a notice to cure to the vendor. This notice to cure is based upon the fact that they have not been meeting the percent uptime for the lights, which requires per contract to be 95%, and they have been under that. We've also asked them to review or to abide by the time for repair and review of the items. We have looked through this, what our needs are, and we have a significant amount of needs, mostly related to wire theft. The vendor, to their credit, they have been attacking wire theft to a great degree, and they have been working with FPL on various items, but we have put them on notice of the needs that we have in order to get everything going. Right now, as of right now, we've given, per the letter to cure, or the notice to cure, we've given them 6 months to come back, or 6 months, or 180 days from last month to come back to 95%, and ensuring that everything, all the work orders have been closed accordingly. And as far as the upgrades of the LED lighting, we're trying to work with the vendor at that point. As far as the county lights, they are on track. However, there's some work that needs to be done with FDOT, which we're urging the contractor to move quickly on this. We'll track this very closely to determine if any further contract action is necessary.
All right, Director. So this has been a pain for me because, like a lot of things in life, people get concerned and get involved with things when it affects them personally. My neighborhood is affected personally. So I have been for the last going on 9 months now, both because I see it and because I now confirmed it with your department. 9 months, the lights have been inoperable and not working along 127th Avenue. I know when I first brought this up last month, Commissioner Cohen-Higgins also had some concerns in her district, but 9 months? This company has been notified of that. 180 days to me is unacceptable for that curing period. It's got to be no more than 60 days. And in fact, I don't know what the exact date is, but by the May meeting, whatever that date is of this committee's meeting in May, that's when we need to have a curing period. I see somebody walked up. I don't know if this is from your department. Is the vendor here today? The vendor is here today? All right. Director, I'd like to call the vendor up just to.
Good morning. My name is Oscar Bodie. I'm the CEO and owner of Miami-Dade Smart Lighting Partners. We have our own letter to provide to the commission and the council. The big reasons, and we started this project in February 1st of 2023. At that time, when that contract was signed, it was not disclosed to us that instead of receiving a network that was at 95%, which is what the requirement was, so we would have to deal with the 5%, the prior contractor, who was paid to do some of these things, actually handed a network that was 4,700 lights were out, which is 83%. So with that in mind, and not knowing that the FDOT was not aligned with the county, we were not aware of that. So we started to work very closely with DTPW. But to this day, 2 years in, we are not allowed to touch an FDOT light. All of the underground, which in fact, we believe we actually addressed, Commissioner, the majority, if not all of the things that we could in your area. We had to create a workable and non-workable work order. I know that doesn't matter to the citizens, it just has to be fixed. But if we're precluded from doing the FDOT lights the way they're supposed to be done for multiple reasons, we can't fix the underground without their permission. They've delayed approving the LED lights for more than 2 years, and so we can't upgrade any of the LED lights for them. If we were able to upgrade the LED lights, the sensors that we put on our smart controllers that we're putting over and above what was required helps against underground wire theft and what have you. So it is not, we did not agree with a notice to cure when the majority of those issues were not on our things that we control. All the work orders that we could do, we've been doing. In fact, March of 2023, because of all those things that were discovered right after the start, we had a discussion, and at the meeting, ourselves, Mastech, our partner, was advised that the ratio from 95 was actually dropped to 90%, because that was the FDOT, et cetera. That being the case, we've exceeded that 90% on workable work orders. So we can provide all these things to you, and despite all this, we've worked to get it down. There's only about 250 of the work orders that were originally 600 have been resolved, even the things that we haven't done, that we're not responsible for, like we're paying for wire theft without an agreement. Wire theft wasn't part of our contract, and we've worked on something positively. So we have all this in writing to provide to you, but we want everything to be based on fact. That's all. And we're ready to make sure that everything gets fixed, but we just have to have it all clearly done.
Oscar, I have. All right, I have a ton of questions now that
Sure.
you come up and you say this, but ultimately it all comes down to the same thing: is taxpayers of this county pay for something.
Correct.
You signed an agreement.
Yes.
You're saying that you were not delivered a working condition environment on those lights. They were not at 95% when they were handed to you.
Correct.
Were they ever said they were going to be? Do you have that in writing that they were going to be? Did you ever request that in your Q&A when you were going through the bidding process?
We were advised that there would be a few hundred lights out, and we have to
So
take
with-
that 5% as is. It was never intended, and it was acknowledged, right? We're getting paid ASRs because that wasn't part of our contract. So we're getting paid to fix those things,
Okay.
the over and above.
My question is, you just said that when you started, it was not at 95%.
Correct.
You assumed it was, and that you just had to maintain it.
Yes.
How did you assume that? Is that in writing that the county was to deliver that at 95% to you?
Well, no, we had 1 year's worth of negotiations and live meetings before we signed the contract. So it was in those meetings that what we were discussing was taking place, and we relied on that.
Perfect. So within the next 60 days, please bring me in writing where it says that the county was to deliver 95% of operating lights to you, handing over to you when you took that contract in February of 2023. That's important for this
Okay.
because it is not being met today. You're 2 years in and you're at 20% of new installs.
Because we can't go further than that.
Why can't you go further than that?
There's more FDOT lights than county lights. We can't even touch any of the FDOT lights yet. So
Why can't you touch the FDOT
Because
lights?
FDOT was not approving the fixtures, and they still haven't approved it. We've been begging, we've been asking, there's tons of letters on our side. And not only does it do that, the Dade County lights, instead of doing the efficiency sequential upgrades, we can't do it. We have to do one here, then skip over there, because in between all those, the way that we originally planned, we had planned to finish. And we would assume, it's fair to assume, if you do take 6 years to do a contract, that and 1 year to negotiate, at the time of notice to proceed, I would have expected there's plenty of time to have everything ready. It wasn't. So we planned on finishing all the upgrades in 24 months. That would have allowed for all of these things that are happening to be avoided because the smart controllers tell us everything. That we can't even begin to do the FDOT lights, which are 14,000 of the 28,000 lights are FDOT lights.
So what about the other lights?
We have we've done the ones that do not have underground damage. We've upgraded almost 7,000 of the lights, 6,000 and change. The rest, we need to fix the underground damage and then do all of them at the same time. Even, just for example, like Chrome Avenue, there's 200 lights that are high-pressure sodium. And by the way, high-pressure sodium can't be located anymore. They're not made in mass production anymore. So we would love to upgrade those to LED, and we can't because we don't have approval from FDOT. It's not a fault of DTPW or us. There's an FDOT component that is very significant that's blocking the things that we can and should do.
All right, Oscar, stay up there. Don't move. Director, what is this FDOT deal?
Mr. Chair, the DOT, we have a maintenance agreement with DOT for about 14,000 lights of our entire 28,000 light inventory. DOT, as per contract, they would have to approve anything that gets done in those lights. The initial approach that the vendor had to deliver the project was to do a generic design that DOT would approve. The contract that we have with the vendor is specific that it requires FDOT approval and whatever analysis FDOT requires. FDOT to date has not agreed to the analysis that the vendor initially produced and has emitted direction. Yes, it took some time, but they did provide direction on the type of analysis that needs to be performed, which is a photometric analysis. My understanding is that the department is still waiting on a proposal from the vendor to complete the photometric analysis. I also want to add 2 points of clarification, and not to get argumentative because we can always come back to this, but the contract is fairly specific. The written letter of the contract is fairly specific that the system was obtained as is. We do understand that as is, there may have been an assumption by the vendor that there were less lights, and yes, the prior vendors should have been doing a better job in doing so, and we were trying to penalize them, and we did penalize the prior vendors on some of these items. But the fact of the matter is, the fact of the contract is, the system was assumed as is and in the condition that it was. In terms of underground breaks on DOT lights, we have already put FDOT on notice and have provided direction to the contractor to go ahead and fix the underground damage, and we would turn around and claim DOT. He could issue a claim to us, and we would claim DOT on those items and try to negotiate a claim with DOT. So we feel that we, at this point, have provided all the direction that we need to be able to bring the system back up to 95%, which is the contract requirement.
So I and correct me if I'm wrong, Director, but I break this contract up in really 2 phases. New installs and maintenance. They're both lacking. They're both deficient right now. The new installs are the ones that are affected because of FDOT, right?
Yes, sir.
The maintenance is not.
It is. The underground from
Because-
FDOT is affected.
Because of the underground, but
And the lighting, that we can't switch, they're requiring that we use HPS lights. Until
Director,
recently, we got a
what
directive.
happens when life safety is at stake? Time just changed yesterday. 7 a.m. is pitch dark. Kids are going to school. These lights are not fixed. It is now a safety issue. And our next item, which is broken sidewalks, does not help when there's no lights.
So in that case, as I stated, we have provided direction. I myself, as a director, have provided direction to the vendor to fix it, and we will negotiate with DOT by issuing a claim afterwards. Even if we are not able to recoup the money from DOT, the direction is that the department will cover it because this is a life safety issue.
Okay. I stand with what I said. I think 60 days is more than enough time for you all to beef it up and come into compliance and come back before this body and give a report. But before I close, I'll recognize Commissioner Cabrera, as I know he wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I had a question. You said that it was pending a proposal by the vendor, the FDOT approval, Director.
Yes, sir.
So when did they find out that they needed to provide a proposal?
We've been working with DOT for several months on this, and DOT had provided direction a significant time ago.
How long does it take to approve that proposal, typically speaking?
On our side, it should not take a significant amount of time.
So is the vendor beyond the time period that they should have been providing that proposal? Why wasn't it provided early on? Why is it being provided now or being requested now?
So when we met with DOT, the methodology proposed by the county and vendor at that point, DOT did not approve. But we worked back and forth with DOT. We tried to negotiate with DOT that DOT accept that methodology. They ultimately did not approve that, and they're within their rights to do so as per contract, both our contract with DOT and our contract with the vendor. And several months ago, the direction was provided both to the vendor and by DOT and to the vendor to submit a proposal, a viable proposal for photometric analysis. I believe there was a prior proposal provided that we felt that was not adequate and would not cover all the needs.
Has anybody from the administration reached out to local Secretary Stacy Miller?
Yes, we have.
And what's been the response?
I've been working with Secretary Miller for some time on this one, and they have a valid approach in which they believe that the methodology that was previously followed would create dark spots and therefore would create other issues within their right-of-way.
May I speak? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yes. When we first started the project, I mean, we're not allowed to attend the FDOT meetings, even though we'd like to. But there was a clear multiple communications must be that the original intent, and even with us, with DTPW, very strongly and adamantly, that this was supposed to be a like-for-like replacement. That was how it was routed, how it was priced, et cetera. And we've submitted that way. And to the extent that changed after there was a few people that retired from FDOT, and then under the new situation, they wanted us to go and do a photometric analysis on every light, including DTPW, and I said that is unrealistic. That would take more than 3 years to complete. And so we did get a proposal. We submitted one proposal. It was thought to be too low because they wanted to include some other things. We went back. We have submitted a LiDAR study in lieu of the photometrics analysis that was submitted a couple weeks ago, and we're waiting for approval back from our project manager. So that is already submitted.
The one thing I'll add is, unless this is your first time doing a project like this, I would assume lights aren't something necessarily new. Lights have been around for a very long time. So whatever proposal it is, if you've worked with FDOT in the past or worked with any county in the past, I would imagine it's got to be very similar. So I would maybe make it in that form as you go forward. And I'll end with saying I concur with the chairman. This should have been done yesterday. And moving forward, you just have to figure out a way to get it done. I suggest a light reading. It's 16 pages. Message to Garcia. And it'll teach everybody what you have to do to get it done.
Commissioner Steinberg, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought this item up. My district, every district, I think, has called DTPW on a regular basis. So I have just a couple quick questions, and I understand the frustration that there are many different components that go into this that could be causing delay. However, there's some instances, by the way, I'm going to backtrack. When we go out to bid on these things, do we contemplate for technology, smart lights? Like, how are these contracts procured? What are we looking for?
So this contract was precisely for that, smart lights or some level of technology added to the lights. If we look at phase 3 of this contract, that includes sensors, it includes several other technology items, and even as part of the phase one, the replacement of the lights, there's a sensor that the vendor's providing in order to basically read when the light goes out or when there's an issue, power or otherwise, and be able to automatically generate even a work order for that light to be reviewed by the vendor and then ultimately replaced or fixed if necessary. So this always contemplated some level of smart lighting. If we look at phase 3 of the contract, it includes other items such as cameras, sensors, and other aspects those are the items that the county is actually would be paying for.
And when we look at the data of the lights that are currently out, we've seen another situation where we have a light that is out, and it's out for a length of time. Then it's somehow fixed, but then shortly thereafter, it's out again. So are we looking at the data of not just what's out, but what we're doing when the same lights that are out are operational, but then are no longer operational, and what's happening there?
That has taken place, Madam Commissioner, and one of the issues that we've been working with not only internally but with DOT, and I do accept that this was not included in this contract, was wholesale replacement of some of these systems. I think we have to look, and we are doing analysis and asset conditioning on that, as to wholesale replacement of some of these systems that unfortunately have met their end of life. However, this was not contemplated as part of this contract. That is maintenance and just replacement of fixtures at that point. But some of the lights in your district, in particular, North Miami and other areas, we are working with DOT to seek additional funding in order to replace those lights, particularly on FDOT roads that have Northeast 6, for instance, that have met their end of life, and therefore we fix them multiple times, and then you get other issues because the system is just has aged beyond repair.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I think when it comes to the FDOT situation, I don't think any of us are saying, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. However, there are situations in which we need to act due to life safety, and that prioritizes what we do and the lens in which we have to look through in order to make sure that it's not just quality of life, but now it becomes life safety.
We totally agree, Commissioner. We've asked, please just give us the permission to do so, and we'll do it. In fact, the delay in the FDOT lights, if we would have had them all done by the time that we wanted to get them done, not only that, but the underground wire theft, as I was saying earlier, would have been tremendously. We cannot do 24-hour power until we have all of the sensors and the controllers, because controllers would turn off and on the lights. We put in, and the county's paying a majority of that, hundreds of thousands. We're now, in 1 year, more than the last 3 years combined. So we do replace the cable, and we got the permission to replace with aluminum versus copper. The very next day, they go and steal what other copper was left. So now you have another 40 or 60 lights out. So between the high-pressure sodium that we can't replace, the underground damage that is not easy to do, then that's the part of the stuff. If we could just get FDOT to collaborate closer with the county and allow us to move forward, if nothing else for the safety of the citizens, that would be really important for us, right? Because it would be significant change in how things are moving.
Director, can we, or have we officially put FDOT on notice?
We have put DOT on notice, not in writing, but in a meeting about how we would be treating their lights and the damages underground, Mr. Chair. We will put them on notice in writing, and we would also seek their guidance to expedite whatever review they need to do of the photometric or methodology analysis.
I think that's important because DOT is clearly a partner of ours, but this is a life safety issue. So,
Perfectly understood.
Jimmy, I know you're.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, Jimmy Morales, Chief Operating Officer. We will elevate that conversation as well. I will be personally involved with Director Secretary Miller and whoever else at District 6 and even in Tallahassee needs to be involved. It clearly needs a lot but more attention on this and focus in terms of the coordination. So we will do that.
Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and message to Garcia. That was a great segue into it. And one of the things we've learned from that essay and talking about action, specifically proactive problem solving and action-oriented leadership. My question to you, sir, is out of everything you've heard this morning, and you're a businessman, that is 100% business. You're not government, you're business. If we were to hand you a magic wand at this time while we're standing in front of you, would you be able to list the top 3 issues? You direct us now.
Yes, sir.
Right now, if we were to waive something to get you to where you need to be to fulfill this agreement, do you have those top 3 things that allow for you to walk out this door, get into your truck, take that list of identifiable sites, and replace those lights?
Absolutely. In fact, we've submitted a proactive, proposed plan to make all that happen.
Okay. Give me your first one.
The first one is that we eliminate these barriers between the county and FDOT, as well as have a closer leveraging between the county and FPL. Because FPL, the county, is the largest customer for the Florida Power and Light, but there's a lot of things that we do not get that impacts us like we're a significant amount of money.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you.
Yeah.
In my world, that was not business talk. That was purely political talk. That was no. Let me just get right to it. Give me a specific task. Now you're bringing in other variables that would require more meetings and more conversation. I'm specifically talking about your side, the way you can get it done. So for instance, and help me out, if I'm going left, you'll pull me back to the middle. One of the things you brought up earlier was FDOT, right? We can deal with FDOT now because we can assume the claim, and then we can then leverage that claim into the form of negotiations later on, correct, Mr. Director?
Yes, sir.
Okay, was that one of your issues?
Yes.
Okay, so we're I'm sorry? Resolved. So it's resolved. No, wait. It's resolved, right? All right. Now, we're not going to fix the FPL issue because of the bureaucracy and because of the back and forth we would have to go through. But is it safe to say now that we've resolved the issue with FDOT and the claim, can we move forward just on that right now?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. How many lights then can we now proceed to deal with based on the representation here as it relates to the agreement that we agree on, right? That we can bypass the FDOT issue.
We could actually do over 80% of the issues that are outstanding.
Gotcha. So that means, so we're talking about now 80% of 14,000.
Yeah.
All right, so we're good. We're almost there. So that basically we're saying that out of every 10 lights that are found within the 14, 8 of those can be resolved based on this representation we just had right now, correct?
Right.
Gotcha. So that's out of the way. Now, give me your second issue.
The second issue is having the ability to get a written approval on the underground. We have a verbal understanding. We've submitted now a permission how to handle with underground damage and wire theft. If we can get that resolved, so we have it now.
Okay, I got you. I hear you loud and clear. Now, where do you want me to go, or where do you want this board to go to get that in writing for you?
Well, I'm including the FDOT in that 80%.
No, yeah, I got you.
That's covered.
I hear you loud and clear.
Just from.
But tell us, you remember, the message was to get to the General Garcia, and the guy who was traveling had to find a way to bypass, during the wars, he had to make sure he can get there, right? So I'm asking you I'm getting you there. So I'm getting you there based on the message of Garcia. So my question to you now is, the second question is, tell me what to do to get to the second point. And very succinctly,
just provide us the written approval to be.
Who provide?
There's only 2.
Miami-Dade County. Mr. Director, can you provide him that written agreement?
We of course can.
Okay, done.
We
All right, so that's
already-
2. Now give me your third one. So that should eliminate another third of the remaining percentages that we've talked about. So we started with 14. We now know 80% of the 14 is done. So now we're stuck now with probably about, I don't know, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11.2. That's 11,200 you've already figured out, so we can cut that away. So now we're left with about about 3,000, oh no, 2,000 and about 800. So we got about 2,800 lights remaining. So now that 2,800 lights are remaining, we just now said we're going to give you the written approval. Out of the 2,800 lights that are remaining, how many of those now we can take away based on the written approval?
You could actually take away another 80%. So
Got it. So we're going to stick with that 80-20 rule. I love this 80-20 rule. I see a little theme going on here. So now we go with 80% of the actual 2,800 that are remaining. So we go with that. So that's about 4, 6, 16, 22. So that's about, I don't know, we're almost there pretty much based on those numbers. Now give me the third one.
the third is, I request that the Department of Public Works that deals with our contract gets additional resources, maybe 3 or 4 more headcounts. And that is a direct reasoning, because there's a lot of things that can't take place there, or things take longer than they should because they're under-resourced. That's my personal opinion. That doesn't come from them.
Now, that is the icing on the cake. We're pretty much there now. So we're going to take away that political talk, the business talk for the everyday Jane and Joe. So basically, now you need Department of Public Works to do what?
To have 2 or 3, it's not very senior, mid-level people that can do a lot of busy work that delays things.
Right. Well, that cuts both ways, right? Because if you put the onus on Department of Public Works, then that money comes off your books, because now you don't have to hire anybody to do that work. Because specifically you asked for 3 mid-level individuals to come in and do the work. If 3 mid-level individuals were to come in and do the work, that increases your ROI at the end, because those are 3 people that you don't have to bring in to do the work. But we're going to assume that's not the case. I'm just going to assume for purposes of this conversation. Can you do it?
We can get that done through contract.
No. That's not the answer. We could get it done. That's not the same as we will get it done. Will you get it done?
We have a contract that can get that done. So
how long will it take for those 3 requests that he's just put forth to you? How long would it take for you to make all those things happen?
we feel the first 2 have already been
Done.
taken.
You agree the first 2 have been done?
Partially.
They've been done. Come on, they've been done. So the third
I
one.
don't want to put him on the spot.
Right. Okay. Well, we're not going to put anybody on the spot. Mr. Chairman, I'm done, but I think we have an agreement. I think your 60-day, I think we can meet your 60-day. Maybe even 30. I think we can do 30. It sounds like we got a deal, gentlemen?
We got 60.
We have a deal. The only thing I want to close, please.
Got it.
Oscar,
This is
hold
the
on.
I'm sorry.
All right. Please provide the resources needed to not set up the contractor for failure. We want to make sure he's provided with the tools on the county side, because come 60 days, I'm not asking for another report or another update. There will be contract action taken if we're not met up to date. There's no more back and forth. Like it's unless, I know Commissioner Cohen-Higgins wanted the floor, and I'll recognize her in a second, but unless she has direct questions, this is simple. We're 2/3 of the way there as far as approvals and documents and FDOT and to Rebel Steinberg's comment, we'll ask for forgiveness later, but life safety is more important. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I just want to thank you for bringing the item and for the follow-up, and to the department. At the last hearing we had when this issue was agended, I had indicated that there were 35 lights within my district, within a very very small area, that were out. And since that last hearing, 7 of them have been repaired and are operating, and 28 remain out. And the reason for more than half of them, 12, is the wire theft issue, and the other one is an FPL no power issue. So I want to thank the department for the 7 being brought back online. And I also want to thank this body for spending the time that is necessary on this particular issue. We often spend time speaking about, more flowery things that are special and spectacular and event related. But as the chairman has said, and as every board member has said here, it's a core function of government for us to be able to provide those lights, especially with daylight savings time. And us that have children and elderly people, anybody that is utilizing our public spaces needs those lights to be operating. And our residents, when they are calling our offices time and time again, asking when is this going to be repaired, it's difficult for us to repeat to them time and time again, we're working on it. So I just appreciate the urgency that's being placed on this. I appreciate you as a businessman coming down here and giving testimony and answering difficult questions. I know it's not the easiest environment, but we look forward to working with you and with the department to actually give the results that our residents deserve on this issue. So thank you to the department and thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
All right, so, Director, please reinstate that letter, default notice, or corrective notice to the vendor after this meeting. And it is, our meeting is May 12. So in order for you to have reports, you need the vendor to be up to par by when? A week before, 2 weeks before?
At least a week before.
So that your third-party vendor can go out and,
We can go out,
Confirm.
vet it, and then provide a report to this body.
okay? So I would say that no later than May 2nd, Friday, May 2nd, you need to have this corrected. And then by the May 12th, Director, I expect an updated report.
Will
All
do.
right. To the attorneys, is there any actual action needed to be taken by this body, or is that directive sufficient?
No, Mr. Chair, that's, if the department is accepting it, that's sufficient. Otherwise, it would, if you want to do a motion, you can
Nope,
do that.
that's good. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
All right, Madam Attorney, let's take item 1F1. Director, do not go far. Yep, turn it back around. 1F1, Madam Attorney.
1F1 is a discussion on sidewalk repairs throughout the county and the backlog.
All right, Director, come back up. So, we're not going to spend as much time on this, hopefully, because we can all agree that there are sidewalks in disrepair throughout this county. Can you, knowing that this item was on the agenda, this is not a late filed item, can you provide me a minute report as to what's going on here?
Yes, sir. So sidewalks get done in one of two ways, and this the commission have provided also directive on issuing contracts for purposes of sidewalks, which we already have had. So for sidewalks that are 50 flags or less, we basically do them in house, and then for sidewalks 50 flags or more, we do them via contract. For purposes of this report, I'll concentrate on the ones that are 50 flags or less. Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. So a flag is basically the lines that you see on the sidewalk that are 5 feet apart, basically the joints. So, when we do sidewalks, we basically take on the service request, and we go out, have someone assess it, and then we determine, when the crew can go out there. Limitations that we have is that we have one sidewalk crew for the county, which their production,
Sorry, Director. One crew
yes, sir.
for 2.8 million people, almost 3 million
At
residents.
this point, that's what we have.
One crew.
Yes, sir. So what we've been able to do is utilize other staff and be able to aggregate, based on that limitation, aggregate additional staff to be able to, over the weekends, build 2 to 3 crews to try to advance a little bit on some of the backlog that we have. The reality of this is that we've also had we've also audited it with the help of the auditor the entire operation, have found additional items that we can do better, such as implementing a new system in order to get out of the paper routing. We've also have added additional concrete vendors in order to have a little bit more resources in that aspect. But so far, the limitation in that has been personnel. We're working internally to try to continue to aggregate, whether it be through the NEAT crew, other folks that have had experience in the sidewalk, to be able to, over the weekends, and bringing them in from other crews to be able to advance on that. But that's part of the limitation we have to the moment.
All right. So, Director, I was coming in to request a report. Same thing we did with the lights, right? Come back in 30 days with this whole report. But I'm going to kind of like skip that whole dog and pony show because we know there's a problem. You just said it in very eloquent words. What is our entire backlog?
Our entire backlog, it depends on the district, but it is over 30,000 square yards of sidewalk that need to be replaced.
And with that one crew and the weekend overtimers, how long would it take you to catch up to bring that to date?
It'll take us a significant amount of time, Mr. Chair, because these continue to aggregate.
Month? A year? 3 years? 5 years? Like what?
It'll be in the years.
Okay, it'll be in the years. This is one you may not have an answer to today. This is one you may actually not want to have an answer to, but do we receive regular trip and fall lawsuits because of this? And that you might have an answer to. The second follow-up to that is, if so, like how many? Like is it a common thing? Is it not?
It is common. It is something that in many cases we do, once we work with whoever the person is, we can come to an agreement on that, but we do get a significant amount of trip and falls. Many of them, to be honest with you, once they go in front of an arbiter, we don't necessarily have to pay anything because it doesn't meet the threshold of an actual trip. But we do have a significant amount of those from a yearly perspective.
Okay, so someone falls, but they don't meet the require. That's fine. I'm glad we're not paying more money than needed. But do you have by districts the amount of sidewalks, or however you measure sidewalk, square, linear foot, that are in disrepair?
Yes, we have that quantified per district.
Okay, that please send to my office
Will do.
directly. Doesn't need to come back in 30 days. Just send it as soon as we finish. Here's what I would like to do, and I'll recognize my colleagues, is the mayor and I have spoken on several occasions about this body often doing unfunded mandates. And I can't promise to the mayor and the administration that I will always adhere to not doing that, but I like to do things a little bit different when possible. So I guess the request, Director, is if you can go back, this isn't a directive to the administration to go and give us a report on where she can get them. No. This is a directive to go back to budgeting with the administration, of course, and identify, not if, but where we can pull resources to add two things. There's two things I want to do. To add sufficient amount of crews, whatever that number is. Do you have that number now? Do you know how many crews we should be operating if fully funded?
4.
Okay. So go find funds for 3 additional crews and find funding for contracting to bring us up to date from those years of backlog. And then once we're up to date, the contracts could go away, they can sunset, and we just remain with 4 crews. And then within 30 days, we're in the middle of mid-year budget, et cetera, come back to us with an identified funding source to fund this.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Madam Attorney, let's take I was going to take the last 2 together, but I'll recognize Commissioner Cabrera on 2A.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I have a few questions for Chief Cooley. These will be yes or no answers. I'd like to confirm that we have 27.5 million in available and GOB for the Shenley project that we gave in exchange for the 27.5 million grant that was allocated for this project, but was used by the department for other projects because your department wasn't ready to proceed with the deadline, prior to the deadline.
Yes.
I also want to confirm that the remaining 27.5 million for the Shenley Park project will come from future financing.
Yes.
Thank you. What I will say is, we had a long discussion. We've gone back and forth on this multiple times, and I don't appreciate the lack of respect in you guys upholding your part of the bargain. Last year during the budget season, you guys came asking, begging to cut a deal to use this funds because you weren't going to be able to use it to meet the deadline. It shouldn't be this hard to get you guys to uphold your side of the deal. So this budget season, don't come asking for anything. There will be no deal. Figure it out. I have an amendment as well.
Go ahead, you're recognized for an amendment.
Commissioner Cabrera moves to amend item 2A to first revise the amount of monies allocated to the sewer expansion for industrial and commercial corridors funded from the Building Better Communities General Obligation Bond Program Project Number 17 funds to $98.5 million. Reduce the amount of GOB Project Number 17 funds to be allocated to the Shenley Park Sewer Expansion System Project from $45 million to $27.5 million. To direct the mayor's designee to include the Shenley Park Sewer Expansion System Project to the list of projects to be funded from future financing proceeds backed by covenant to budget and appropriate debt in an amount not less than $27.5 million, and to include in the 2025 debt issuance or the next issuance undertaken the $27.5 million for the Shenley Park Sewer System Expansion Project. To clarify that the project is estimated to cost at least or no less than $55 million, and to make conforming changes to the title and throughout the resolution.
It's been moved as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. All in favor signify by saying aye. All
Aye.
opposed, nay.
I have a quick question
Go ahead.
on the item. I believe it just passed.
Did.
And I'm glad that it did. But to the administration, I think I understand what happened here, but my question is always kind of forward-facing on how we can prevent it from happening in the future. When we have projects where we have match funding, is there not a system already embedded in our procedure and policies that bumps those projects to the top so that we don't risk ever losing money and having the ability to provide critical infrastructure projects to our residents? Like, what are we doing that we are not meeting deadlines where there is millions of dollars sitting and match funding available, and we're ever risking losing that? Like, what is the policy in place that, and maybe the answer is there is none, but that is my question. Is there a policy or a requirement that those projects are bumped to the top of the priority list?
Chief.
For the record, I'm Roy Coley, Chief Utilities and Regulatory Services Officer. Commissioner, to answer your question, we do have that policy, but what happened in this situation was the $27.5 million grant was received from DEP. Shortly after we received the grant, which none of us knew, they informed us that their source of money was a federal source that had a very short shot clock on it. It had to be spent or returned quickly. The Shenley Park project was not even in design, and we identified there would be no possible way that we could spend that money in Shenley Park in the time frame required, and we would lose the money. So we went back to DEP and asked, could we spend the money somewhere else rather than lose it? And long story short, and long negotiations and back and forth, they agreed as long as it was in a similar type project for similar purpose. That's why we used the money in the GEO bond project that we had shovel ready to go, the $27.5 million, and then we could take $27.5 million from GEOB and give it back to Shenley Park. And that's how that happened.
But you said Shenley was not design ready, and yet the funds were there. So how was it that we had funds on a project where the design was not even close to ready? Like, what happened out of order? Why are we asking for funds on a project that's not ready for us to actually spend and execute those funds?
When the grant was requested, it was requested by the commissioner, and the project had never been designed. So we got the grant, and then we start designing. It's normal that way because we cannot use department money to design future service areas. So we get the grant, we have the money, and then we hire the designer to do the design. So we received the money, we were going down the path of design when we learned we couldn't move fast enough without risk losing the money, and we didn't want to lose the money.
Thank you for that explanation, and thank you for confirming that there is a policy in place to essentially avoid this from happening in the future. Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move your item 2B if you're ready for me to do so.
Yes, please. So it's been moved by Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, seconded by the Vice Chair. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay.
That's
show
on
the-
3A.
I moved
3A.
3A.
All right. Sorry, I had it as 2B as well. All right, so it's 3A. It's been approved. All right, show us adjourned.
6A, the minutes.
We have one left?
6A, Mr. Chair, the minutes.
Oh, so show the minutes approved? Do we need a motion?
Yes,
I
please.
move it.
Moves by DCA, the Commissioner Cohen Higgins. Seconded by Commissioner Steinberg. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Of the offer. Ralph Monroe, a Coconut Grove pioneer, described the difficulty of life in the late 1870s.
No more isolated region was to be found in the country, and scarcely less productive. The one way to make money was by the manufacture of starch. Compty plants indigenous to the area were dug up, and the starch that was extracted from their roots was sold in Key West. Every family had its little mill.
Coconut Grove became South Florida's first real community after Charles and Isabella Peacock opened a hotel there in 1884 and inaugurated the area's first tourist season. Before long, Coconut Grove had a school, a church, a library, a women's club, and a yacht club. South Florida's first black community also began in Coconut Grove. These pioneers came from the Bahamas and settled on what is now Charles Avenue. Another small settlement named Cutler grew up around what is now Southwest 168th Street. In the late 1880s, William Fizzard hacked a road through the dense tropical hammock to connect Cutler to Coconut Grove. South Florida's other early settlement was at Lemon City near today's Northeast 61st Street. In 1892, it became the first community to be linked by road and stagecoach to points north. This was the South Florida that a Cleveland widow named Julia Tuttle met when she put ashore on the north bank of the Miami River in November 1891 to claim the 640 acres of wilderness she had just purchased. She began a campaign to convince Henry Flagler to bring his railroad and string of luxury hotels on down the coast to the Miami River.
I will give you 100 acres of land, reserving my home lot. I will give you 1/2 of the remainder of the Fort Dallas property, as may mutually be thought desirable, to lay out a town site.